Urban transportation planners want to know more about where bicyclists are riding. So the smartphone application called Strava is allowing the crowdsourcing of bicycle volumes over a broad area that helps answer some of this challenge. Another way to record bicycle volume information is using equipment like what's hidden in that gray box in the lower right-hand corner. But this type of construction costs a lot of money to be able to implement. You can't do it everywhere.
And then some streets, which provide almost no specific protection for bicyclists, are popular bicycle routes. So planners need to know more about where bicyclists actually ride, regardless of whether they have enough infrastructure to place on the ground. Some areas may have pretty high bicycling volumes, but in a lot of those areas you have people that are riding for transportation, not necessarily fitness purposes. So they aren't necessarily using the Strava app and won't get recorded in this data set.
Looking at the scale of the entire region, we can see that Strava data is a tremendous data source that covers a huge area that we'd never had access to before. However, there's some limitations in how we can use that information. Less than 60% of the United States population currently has access to a smartphone, so that restricts the number of people that can contribute. Particularly left out are people aged 65 and older. On the left, you can see that less than 20% of the Strava users in the Portland, Maine region are female, contrasted with almost 40% of all the bicyclists in the region that reported riding for transportation at least once a month. So there's a big difference in representation by gender when we look at the Portland, Maine region between Strava users and the total population of cyclists. So if we were to take a look at how the Strava Metro data compares with American Community Survey information, which is a standard survey mechanism that's applied all over the United States with a standard question asking people about how they get to work. And so when we take a look at the question on bicycling and compare that with the commute trips that are findable within the Strava Metro information, we find there's a great deal of variation over the region that we're looking at. Overall, there's a very low correlation between those two different variables if you take the global view. So that suggests that Strava Metro doesn't necessarily represent the entire commuting population. However, if we take a look at the urban area, we see a very high correlation ratio, and so it can be very helpful information in terms of commuting trips in the Portland, Maine region, at least close into downtown. Overall, this suggests that you need to be careful not only about who you think the crowdsourced data is representing, but also where you're looking in your particular study area. The combination of the two need to be understood in order to be able to say with confidence what the Strava Metro crowdsourced data is actually saying about your community's bicycling. And next we're going to take a look at a couple of previous studies to provide a little bit of perspective on these findings. The first study that we did in Austin with Strava Metro data compared the crowdsourced information with an actual traffic count using one of the counters similar to what we looked at the beginning of this video. We found that the Strava Metro information represented about 5% of all the users were actually using the app at that time. So that may sound like a small amount, but it's over 5 times what a previous study using GPS was able to obtain. So crowdsourced information does represent a large population, but it's a limited population in terms of the demographics. And so the second study looked at if fitness users are using this, then what can we learn about that? And we did find that there's significant changes in terms of their desire to seek hills for training, and they're much more tolerant to not having bicycle facilities. Let's take a look at some quick conclusions. First of all, crowdsourced information on bicycle volumes misses many different populations, limited to those that are actually using the app. So we do need to have actual counting programs that leverage other types of technology or manual counting programs to understand where people are bicycling in terms of total volumes. The best way to be able to look at this information might be to marry the two data sources using data fusion.
So a lot of riders aren't probably using the Strava app to be recorded in the data set that we have, so it's important to use actual counts as well, in addition to the smart city data sets like Strava Metro.
But my perspective on this is just the beginning. I want to hear more about what you'd like to say.